What is the Terps ceiling for next season?
You are Locked On Terps, your daily podcast on the Maryland Terps. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everyone? I'm Tre Moore, video content creator for 247 Sports and InsideMarylandSports.com, and host of Locked On Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So thank you for making us part of your day. And today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Happy Friday, everybody, and I like today's topic. We are going to be talking about the Maryland football's ceiling for next season, and I think it's an interesting topic. I think it's one that a lot of people would have different opinions on, and I kind of just been thinking about what is all that we can accomplish at our best. If our team does absolutely the best, what can we accomplish? Obviously, like, if you want to think of it kind of like unrealistically, you can be like, our ceiling as a team is to win every single game and go 12-0 and whatever it is and win the Big Ten championship because everybody's human and we can do that. Obviously, you can think of it as that in that kind of weird way, but I want to be realistic in talking about this. What do I actually think the ceiling is for this year's team? And I've gone over and I've said a couple times just quickly in other segments and other days that I think this year's team has a lower ceiling than last year's team. I do. I'm still unsure of a lot of stuff that how this year's going to go. I'm unsure about a lot of position groups. I mean, certainly the quarterback position for one, without having Taulia there. And now it's looking like MJ Morris is going to be the guy. I'm pretty positive about that. Everybody that tends to report on these things, everyone that talks about Maryland football is saying that MJ Morris is going to be the guy for Maryland football. But in terms of that ceiling, having a quarterback that was really proven in Taulia Tagovailoa and going to MJ Morris, which is interesting because I do think there's actually an argument to be made that MJ Morris, I've said it, has a higher ceiling than Taulia. But overall, as a team, I do think that last year's team had a higher ceiling. I just think we were more complete. I think we were a little bit better. I think there was less holes, and we'll see how these holes fill out. Obviously, things can change, but I do think that if you look at the quarterback switch, if you look at having 5 new guys on the offensive line this year, and even though the offensive line was similar in that type of way last year, we did have DJ Glaze returning, and he, of course, won the 3rd round. And when we talk about other places in terms of the secondary, it just seemed like last year there was a little bit more experience in that room and a little bit of a higher ceiling. But for this year's team, what is our ceiling? It's going to depend on a lot of things. A lot of it's going to depend on that quarterback room. You could argue like most of it's going to depend on that quarterback room. Obviously, your team has to play well. Other position groups have to play well. But a lot of it's going to depend on that quarterback. And MJ Morris as a player, I do like his ceiling. I have said it. I liked his ceiling, but I'm not in love with the floor for him, but I do like the ceiling. But we're not here to talk about the floor. We're here to talk about the ceiling. And MJ Morris as a player in leading a team in the Big Ten, what is that ceiling for him? I don't know exactly, but if I had to kind of guess and how to put out there what I think his ceiling is, I think it's to be about probably where we've been the last couple of years in terms of quarterback play and in terms of record. I think we'd be about the same. I think his ceiling might add another win. We might be able to get to 9 wins with MJ Morris's ceiling. If everything comes together the right way for him, I think that it's not crazy to say that we could get to 9 wins. I think 10 is pushing it to kind of just being a little bit unrealistic, but I think 9 wins wouldn't be anything crazy for MJ Morris in terms of his ceiling. We're talking about him at his best, not what we expect, him at his best. And yesterday we talked about Maryland's projected win total as a team, and it was sitting at 6.5. And I went on and said that I think that we could, I think that we're going to go over that number and we'll get to 7 wins. And MJ Morris, I think, could lead us potentially to 8 or 9 wins. I don't think it's crazy to say that we could possibly win out besides Oregon, USC, Penn State. I think we could potentially win out outside of that. So I'm looking at our ceiling as with MJ Morris led team. I think that our ceiling is about 9 wins, I think. I think you definitely could get there. And that means you have to beat all the swing games and you have to beat Minnesota. You got to beat Rutgers. You got to beat Iowa. You got to beat Michigan State. You got to beat Virginia and Indiana. But I don't think that's that crazy. I think last year we almost went undefeated outside of our big three last year. And I think that MJ Morris as a quarterback just provides a little bit more talent than Taulia. I don't know if he'll have the same type of yardage and just kind of accuracy that Taulia had, but it's interesting with Taulia because you can get kind of misconstrued with how Taulia was as a player. You could kind of think Taulia as one of the Big Ten's best, and because he's leading the Big Ten in passing yards ever, but a lot of that had to do with just Maryland's game plan, just to throw the ball, throw the ball, throw the ball. And don't get me wrong, I love Taulia, but MJ Morris has a bigger arm. He has way more ability with his legs and is a less potential for injury just because I think with his size overall. So I do like MJ Morris's ceiling as a player, and I do think he has the potential to lead this Terrapins team to 9 wins, but it's not just going to be him. It's not just going to be MJ Morris. It's going to have to be other people as well to make sure the ceiling is high. And if the offensive line group that we've gotten many guys, different players in the portal, and it's going to be 5 new starters up there. If they surprise people and they play up to their potential and their ceiling, and MJ Morris is playing at a high level, obviously, you can't assume everything's going to be perfect. The quarterback's playing well. The secondary's playing well. The wide receiver room's playing well. But if they play up to their ceiling as a unit, then I like where this offense is, because then Roman Hemby, if the offensive line is playing well, then Roman Hemby doesn't have to do anything crazy to be a good rusher and average good yards per carry. He can just be who he is, use that speed, use some of that athleticism that he has. If the offensive line plays well, it's going to make it a lot easier on everybody. MJ Morris is going to have more time to throw the ball. The run game's going to get going a lot more. And so if the offensive line plays well and lives up to their ceiling as a team, then we could potentially get to 9 wins and win all those games that we're supposed to win, or maybe we drop a game that we're not supposed to drop, but we beat a USC at home or Oregon on the road. Not saying that happens, but maybe if we live up to our ceiling. And in terms of the defense, I said it yesterday, I think our defense has a chance to be a really good unit, even without it breaching our ceiling as a unit. I think our defense, just as a normal, what I expect them to be, has a chance to be really good, but a lot of it's going to depend on that cornerback room overall. And I do like the cornerback room, but I'm not in love with the experience that we have. It's going to be all new starters up there, but they're talented in terms of they're talented in terms of just what I've seen them do when they've gotten the chance to play. And I think they have a chance to make a good impression in that room. And if they live up to their ceiling, and let me tell you, those guys have a really high ceiling in that cornerback room. I love Perry Fisher. I think he might have one of the highest ceilings on this team and has a chance to really do some big things this year for Maryland football. And if he can live up to that ceiling with all the traits, and I've seen him play in the Music City Bowl game and the reports about the spring and everything, I think he has a chance to be really good if he lives up to his ceiling over on the Jalen Husky on the other side. If he lives up to what he was at Bowling Green and he plays to the highest level, then I like the ceiling of this defense. And offensively and defensively, I think we could have 2 really good units. But that's if everything kind of lives up to what you want it to. Then I think Maryland could get to 9, maybe 10 wins potentially with the bowl game. I don't know exactly. I think that's the ceiling for the Terps. I think also you could say that we're ranked in the top 25. Maybe we're hovering around that 20-ish kind of spot, 20, 21. Maybe we get up to 19 inside the top 20. I think that's the ceiling for the Terps in terms of their ranking, in terms of how good can they possibly get. And remember, there is an extended playoff this year. And so it's interesting because I'm not ready to say our ceiling is in the playoffs. I don't think that's the case, but I do think our ceiling as a team is a top 25 team. And I would say that. And I think that also you look in the tight end room, those 2 guys, Preston Howard and Dylan Wade, might have the highest ceiling and the lowest floor of any position group. Maybe you could argue MJ Morris maybe a little bit. Maybe you could say the quarterback room. But I would argue that tight end room, because those 2 kids are so talented and have the chance to be super special for Maryland football, and it's going to start this year, but they also could just be young and not quite ready to make the impact that maybe we need them to make. I think that's entirely a possibility. I think their floor is kind of low, but I think their ceiling's kind of really high and potential all Big Ten players down the road for Maryland football. And so I'm thinking about our ceiling overall, and I like it. I think it's a borderline top 25 team. I'm thinking that it's a team that it pushes some teams in the Big Ten. Our ceiling, I think, potentially could beating a USC team at home, a USC team that's definitely going to take a step back from where they've been with losing Caleb Williams and having some other guys leave. And overall, I just think the USC team is going to be beatable at home. I'm not saying that we're going to win. I think our ceiling's doing something like that, beating an Oregon, Penn State, or USC. I think our ceiling is beating one of those three and having a really good season in the Big Ten as well. And finishing, I would say it's a new Big Ten, and so there's no conference dividers, but I think our ceiling as a program is finishing like middle higher pack, like right behind the big dogs, the Ohio States, the Michigans, the Penn States, the Oregons. But I think even I don't think Washington's going to be anything that special this year. So maybe we're a touch below Washington and finish right behind them. But I like our ceiling as a team. I think that we are in a pretty good spot going into the fall and going into the summer. And I think that if people start, and this isn't what I expect to happen. I want to make that clear. I'm not crazy. I'm not expecting us to probably finish in the top 20. I'm not expecting us to do any of that. But I do think that if everything goes right and we live up to our ceiling as a program, I think we can do some special things with this Maryland football team. And I think we can have a decently high ceiling as a team. It starts with MJ Morris, though. Let's talk about the new college football game. There's been some new stuff leaked, and I want to talk a little bit about that, and I want to talk about some Maryland players and what I think they should be rated. I will tell you about that after this ad from the Gametime app. Have you ever wanted to go to a game at the last minute, like a Maryland Terrapins game, but finding tickets is hard? I have been there before. Buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. Gametime is a fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guaranteed, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. Gametime has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event and even an hour after it starts. It's the place to find last-minute seats. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. So the new college football game has a new, the cover of it basically came out on one of the editions. There's going to be different editions of the game if you guys know how it works. And it was pretty cool to see that coming out today. And so in kind of inspiration of seeing that the new college football game is definitely coming and we're seeing different stuff coming out about it and all these different things, I wanted to go through a couple of position groups and rank some of the Maryland players. I think I want to do every single position group, but we're just going to do a couple at a time. I want you guys to let me know what you guys think these players' ratings should be. We're going to start with the quarterback room and then keep going. I don't know how much we're going to get. We're going to go to running back next, but just inspiration. I wanted to talk about this after seeing the new college football game is coming out, but we'll see. We're going to start with the quarterback room, though, and our three guys we're going to rate the three guys on our roster between MJ Morris, Cam Edge, and Billy Edwards. And it's interesting because you got to remember these games usually don't kind of give respect to the programs like Maryland, and so this isn't what I think they're going to do, but this is what I think the rating should be. MJ Morris is probably going to be the highest rated out of those couple. He's played a couple of games, and he's played well in spots. I think he deserves probably around a 76. I would say I think he's not super proven, and they're not going to love that. And I think that he's going to have pretty good speed, and those type of things, and the athletic kind of stats. But I think he might lack a little bit in accuracy, and but I think he'll have a pretty good arm and throw power. But I think around a 76 makes sense, and that's not a great player in their game. That's it's an okay kind of player, but he still has to prove himself. And so I kind of agree with him being around a 76. Maybe you could give him a 77, but I don't think he's done quite enough to say that he's above that yet. But that's kind of where I would put him. I think he would be a pretty fun player to use in the game just because I think he has a strong arm and I think he can run. And so with the Maryland team, it's going to be interesting to see kind of how those ratings come together. But I would probably throw him around a 75. Or 76, excuse me. But I'm excited for this game. It's going to be a really cool game. But let's move on to Billy Edwards and Cam Edge. So they're both interesting. I'll start with Edwards, though. Edwards, I would probably rate a 73, 72, I would say, because I think that they would just mess, or what I would do, I'm trying not to stay away from what I think they'll do. I just don't think that throwing attributes would be there if I'm the ratings guy and making the rating systems. And that's a big part of what the quarterback is. And I think it'd be fair to say I would make him a pretty inaccurate thrower. He just hasn't proven yet to be a guy that can make throw after throw after throw. And I think we've seen that. I think he has a pretty good arm and everything. I just would like to see more accuracy and definitely something he can improve on. But the thing where he could be fun in the game is maybe you use him in some different packages and some wildcat stuff and some different type of things. Maybe you can try Billy Edwards in because of just how talented of a running back he is. He's definitely going to be one of the more athletic runners of the football in the college football game, I think, in terms of the quarterback position. There's definitely some top flight athletes at the quarterback position, but I think Billy Edwards could have a chance to be one of the better ones, at least in the Big Ten. And I think his speed and those type of stats and should be up there. He's a pretty big body. He should be pretty automatic on the QB sneaks, but I think his speed should probably be like an 85, 86. Like, he's a pretty athletic guy. I don't know if they would give him that, but I do think that Billy Edwards should get that type of rating. Now, Cam Edge is probably the opposite in terms of rating, probably a little bit better throwing stats, but they probably are going to be pretty harsh on his speed. His athleticism speed kind of ratings is probably around a 65, probably, to be realistic. He can't run very much. He doesn't move very much. That's just what it is. And so I'd probably give Cam Edge his overall rating, I'd probably give him a 72 as well, 71. He hasn't proven himself either, but we have seen a couple of good things in the gameplay that we saw in the Music City Bowl game. Maybe his deep accuracy is going to be pretty good. And that's why I don't really know how they rate all these players, because a lot of these college players you just haven't seen. And sure, it's kind of like that in the NFL, but I feel like the NFL, you have a whole college tape where the player definitely played a good amount if he's in the NFL, but you also get some of the preseason stuff in the NFL. You get a better idea of the ratings. For the college, it's kind of weird because it's like you could have a guy like Cam Edge, like he's played one game. How are we going to rate him off of that? That's how you kind of just get disrespected. But I would say probably 71, I would probably rate him around. I think that's a fair spot for him. All these guys can definitely improve and get better and kind of take a next step up. But right now, that's kind of, I think, where I would have him. Taulia has a new team that he is trying out for. Let's talk about that after this ad from Monopoly Go. All right, game off. We got to pause here to talk more about Monopoly Go. I know what you're saying. Flag on the play. You already talked about that. But there's so much good stuff in this game. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with your friends for time tournaments where you work together to build up each other's board. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock, and there's so much to get. unique stickers you can trade with friends to complete albums for big prizes, cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with, hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings, or heist or vaults. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton include their own unique mini games like digging for treasure for a robot machine, and there's always new timed events that helps you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go. So get off the bench and go download it now, free on Google Play or the Apple Store. Game on. Let's talk about Taulia Tagovailoa. I think he is the best Maryland quarterback probably ever, definitely statistically speaking, but I think as a talent and as a player, he is the best Maryland player ever. But I want to talk about him in the NFL because I think this is an interesting kind of topic, and I think you guys care about Taulia in the NFL. But so basically, this is what I've been told is happening. He got released by the Seahawks. He had like a couple day tryout with them, I guess. I thought he would kind of be in their camp for longer, but I guess not. He got released by the Seahawks. So basically how I'm pretty much assuming it went is he came in and didn't look great, didn't show a lot to the Seahawks organization, and they decided to cut him. And I'm not surprised entirely because I think that the Seahawks quarterback room is definitely pretty stout, but if you look good, and they're going to keep you around. So he clearly didn't have a great couple of days in. I've been talking about this with him. I don't know if his game's super translatable to the NFL. I don't know if he has an NFL game. I don't know if he's an NFL arm. He also turnovers the ball a lot. And I just don't know if he can make the throws on the NFL field that you probably need him to make if you want him to be a practice squad quarterback or be a guy you keep around through rookie minicamp. I don't know if Taulia Tagovailoa is that type of player. I don't know if he would be able to, if he's going to be able to do that. And so I'm not surprised he didn't look good at Seahawks camp, but I'm also kind of thinking that like he is still a good player and he still is an accurate throw of the ball and he's going to put the ball in the right spot. I just think it's different. I don't know if he's super translatable, but the news is that he has since been picked up by the Cardinals in their quarterback room. And it's interesting because the Cardinals, of course, have Kyler Murray and they drafted Marvin Harrison Jr. this year. So Marvin Harrison and Taulia have been used to going against each other. Maybe Taulia gets to throw a couple balls to Marvin and see what happens with that. But that might be kind of interesting. But I mean, how it works, I worked with the Ravens a little bit last summer and was at their rookie mini camp, and they still have it very like separated and like reps. Like not everybody's just getting reps. Like they definitely have it very like strict and everything. Like it's not like every rookie has an equal opportunity. Like I remember when I was at the Ravens camp, it was like Zay Flowers was clearly the guy there. Like he was getting most of the reps in terms of when they would go 7-on-7, 11-on-11, whatever it was. And the same with the quarterbacks. The quarterbacks that they liked were going to get the reps, and the ones that were kind of behind, they might not get any reps at all in the live periods, and you got to prove yourself throwing the football. And so Taulia is interesting because it's like, can he kind of be in the mold of Kyler Murray a little bit? Because they're both small type of guys. They're both maybe not, they're just not the biggest guys. Kyler Murray is just more talented, and that's just what it is. With what he can do with his legs, he still has a pretty big arm for being that size. But can Taulia kind of fit in there and look a little bit better with the Cardinals? And we'll see what happens with that. I'm hoping that he can. I would like him to be somewhere for preseason. I want him to be somewhere for preseason. I would love to see what he does in preseason in a real NFL game to see if what I'm saying is true, if I think his game's not super translatable to the NFL. And obviously, I hope that's not true, and I hope that doesn't happen, but that's just kind of how I see things. And I would love for him to stick with the Cardinals and see what can happen and see if he can get some run in preseason. But at the same time, it's not easy. These teams aren't just looking to fill spots just because they want it with the best players. But hopefully he plays a little bit better. Maybe he's got a little bit more experience now that he got cut from the Seahawks camp, and maybe he learned a little bit. Not very much time to learn a ton, but maybe just learn a little bit how to go about things, how to just do things a little bit better. But I'm looking forward to see if he can do anything with the Seahawks and if how that go, or excuse me, with the Cardinals, and if you can stick around for preseason, because that will be interesting, and just soak up what Kyler Murray has to say. I don't know how great of a leader Kyler Murray is, but just learn, and you never know when your opportunity may come, and you never know what can happen. But I think the goal for him is just being on a practice squad. I think that's the goal for him. And if he can make that happen, then you never know what can happen. You never know what injury can happen. You can always be called up, and everyone gets an opportunity. Or not everyone gets an opportunity, but you're gonna get an opportunity eventually. It's just, can you capitalize on that? And so we're going to see if that happens with Taulia Tagovailoa. That's all we have for today. Thank you for listening to Locked on Terps. Make sure you like and subscribe. We're here every day talking Maryland football and basketball. So thank you for listening to Locked on Terps.